Hi everyone, this is Akshay Nagpal and I welcome you all on my YouTube channel. I hope you all are doing well and the preparation is going well too. So, today we are going to revise Audit Committee and Corporate Governance chapter of CA Final Audit. This chapter has three portions. One being Audit Committee, which we'll cover today. The second being Board of Directors, which we have already done, and the link is in the description box. The third being the miscellaneous portions, which will be uploaded very soon. Alright, so today our focus point will be on audit committee. You can segregate audit committee into four parts. First and second being section number 177 and regulation number 18. Then one important question about mandatory review points, and the last but not the least, the amended portion that talks about the resignation of statutory auditors. Without wasting any more time, let's start our lecture.
So now let's head to the regulation number 18 as well as section number 177. I have made a particular chart where we can uh, differentiate between the two on the basis of few points. Then for the other points where we can't differentiate, then we will see the other points as you can see on your screen, that other points in regulation number 18 and section number 177. So there are a few points in that as well. As you can see, there are many points basically. So yes, we will have to read out 3 to 4 pages for the matter of regulation number 18 and section number 177. Right. First thing is about the applicability. The applicability section number 177 of the Companies Act 2013 uh, says that audit committee shall have to be formed by the listed entities for sure, and then it talks about the unlisted public company with the particular criteria of if the paid up share capital is more than equal to 10 crores, or the turnover is more than equal to 100 crores, or the outstanding loans, debentures, or deposits is more than 50 crores. And there are three exceptions also. The first one being the wholly owned subsidiaries, they don't need to have audit committee, and the dormant companies, and the third one being the joint venture. If the company is a joint venture or a dormant company or a wholly owned subsidiary, then even though they are meeting the eligibility criteria as mentioned above, they don't need to have an audit committee. All right. And as per regulation number 18, the only listed entities shall have to have audit committee in comparison to section number 177, which talks about unlisted public companies as well. All right, so regulation number 18 tells us about the listed entities as well, and regulation number 3 talks about the applicability of the SEBI LODR. So we have to have the basic understanding of what constitutes listed entities as per SEBI LODR. So we will first switch to regulation number 3. As you can see here, that the applicability of LODR regulation it talks about. So first point, that it says that the listed entities which has any of the following designated securities listed on recognized stock exchange, that is NSE or BSE, and if the same have been listed, if the A to G point have these are the name of the securities that are mentioned here. If these securities are listed on the recognized stock exchange, then the regulation number 3 triggers, and LODR regulation will apply on the company. And if the same are listed, then regulation number 18 makes the company makes it mandatory for the company to constitute audit committee. All right. So yes, it talks about this, and if we read it here, that is specified securities listed on main board or SME exchange or institutional trading platform. The second one talks about the non-convertible perpetual debentures securities, non-convertible redeemable preference shares, perpetual debt instruments, perpetual non-cumulative preference shares, Indian depository receipts, security receipts, and securitized debt instruments, units of mutual funds. So either of them, if are basically listed on the recognized stock exchange, then the SEBI LODR will be applicable on the security on the company, and the company shall have to have audit committee or as per regulation number 18. All right. So section number 177 we have read, and regulation number 18 we have read about the applicability part. All right. Second part is about the chairperson. The thing here is it is not mentioned in section number 177. It does not talk about the chairperson specifically. For that matter, that the chairperson shall have to be the independent director as per regulation number 18. But as per section number 177, it does not talk about the uh, chairperson to be independent director. So we will leave it to that. All right. The third point is about the composition. Composition. Basically, in both the cases, it says that the minimum of three directors are to be required to be the members of the audit committee. And as per section number 177, it says that the majority should be the independent director. But in case of regulation number 18, it says that at least two-thirds of the number of directors in the audit committee shall have to be the independent directors. All right. Plus, it also says one more point, which is amended. It says that all the directors will be independent directors if the company has basically issued the superior rights equity shares in the company to the members. All right. So if the superior rights have been issued, what are the superior rights? We have already discussed in a previous video, which in the board of directors topic. So you can refer that video if you want to learn about what are the superior rights equity shares. All right. It basically says that the where the voting rights is more than one for equity share, then it is called the superior right equity share. For example, in case one share equals to two voting rights, for example, up to 10 voting rights, up to 10, you cannot cross more than 10. All right. So if it is more than one equity share, one voting right to denote is denoted to the one equity share, then you can call it as a superior rights equity share. And if the superior rights equity share is issued by the company, then the audit committee will only be comprised of the independent directors. All right. So we read about the composition as well. Applicability we have read already. Chairperson shall have to be independent director as per regulation number 18, but nothing is mentioned in section number 177. Composition we have read that the minimum of three directors with the majority to be independent director as per section number 177. But in case of regulation number 18, minimum three directors, two-thirds to be independent director, and in case superior right equity shares have been issued, then only independent directors will form the composition of audit committee. So the number of meetings is also there. That section number 177 does not talk about it, but as per regulation number 18, it says that meeting at least 4 times in a year with not more than 120 days lapse between two meetings. So even after one meeting, you will have to have a second meeting, but the gap between the two meetings cannot be more than 120 days. All right. And it also talks about the quorum. It says that at least two members of the audit committee or one-third of the number of members, whichever is greater, shall have to be present throughout the meeting, plus two independent directors shall have to be there as well. All right. So it talks about quorum as well, the quorum of audit committee meeting. Now coming to the next point, it says that majority of the members shall have to be, including the chairperson, shall be able to read and understand the financial statements. So this is one of the important criteria given in section number 177. It says basically that majority of the members of the audit committee will be able to understand and read the financial statements. If they can't, how they will be able to they basically fulfill their responsibilities towards all the given points that we will read further. So yes, this is an important criterion that the majority of the members of the audit committee will be able to comprehend, read, and understand the financial statements for that matter. And as per regulation number 18, all the members shall have to be financially literate, and at least one member shall have accounting or related financial management expertise as well. The expertise portion is not given in your section number 177, but it says basically that at least one member shall have to be expert in this area, but all the members of the audit committee shall have to have basic understanding and shall be financially literate. All right. Now, one more point is about the secretary to the committee. It says that company secretary of the company shall act as a secretary of the audit committee in case of regulation number 18, and section number 177 does not talk about it as well. All right. So next point is basically about the other points which are given in regulation number 18 and section number 177. It says that first point being the audit committee at its discretion shall invite the financial director, head of the internal audit, head of the internal audit, representative of the statutory auditor, and the other such executives to be present at the meeting of the committee. So when the meetings will happen, so audit committee can, at its discretion, can invite the head of the internal audit, the representative of the statutory auditor, any executives of the company, or the financial director, or the head of the financial function. However, the audit committee may meet without the presence of any executives of the listed entity. But as per regulation number 18, it talks about the quorum part. So you remember that part as well. All right. The power of the audit committee is also given in regulation number 18. These 2 points are given in regulation number 18. All right. The first point and second point are given in regulation number 18 only. All right. So the powers of the audit committee is also given. There are 4 mandatory powers which forms part of the terms of reference as well. So this list is not comprehensive. This list is not exhaustive but illustrative. But these 4 powers are mandatory to be given to the audit committee as per the terms of reference also. So this if the question asks you about the powers of the audit committee, so you need to write only these 4 points and just mention that these four powers are mandatory for the auditor to have, for the audit committee to have. All right. The first power is about the investigating any activity within its terms of reference. The investigative power is given to the audit committee, and the second power is to seek the information from any employee. First power is about the investigating any person within the terms of reference of the audit committee. The second power is about seeking any information from the employee. The third power is about to obtain the outside legal counsel, to obtain the outside legal or other professional advice, and to secure attendance of outsiders with relevant expertise. So yes, these are the 4 mandatory powers to have by the audit committee, and the auditor should check with the auditor as well to check whether the powers have been given to the audit committee within its terms of reference as well. All right. It is mandatory for the above mentioned 4 powers to be vested in the audit committee. The board may delegate vest further powers to the committee as per the terms of reference. All right. If they want to create better governance in the company, then the audit committee need to be more powerful because they are headed by the independent directors, as you must know already, because we have already read that the chairperson need to be independent director as per regulation number 18, and the majority, the 2/3 number of members need to be independent directors in the audit committee. So it basically denotes that the majority members of the audit committee are independent, and the committee itself becomes independent because of the composition of the same. So if the committee is independent, then it basically empowers them, and if the powers are given by the board, then it will help create a better governance in the company. All right. So these apart from these powers which are mandatory, apart from these powers, other powers can also be given uh, by the board of directors to the audit committee. All right, but these 4 powers are mandatory, remember that. All right. Now coming to the role of audit committee part, which is given in part number C, sub part A of schedule number 2 to the regulation number 18. So there are many points, but we have picked up the first 10 points, which you need to remember. So it basically talks about many things. So let's read it one by one. You will be able to understand it very nice. This is the portion where you can understand as well, and you will have to cram a little bit as well. All right, in order to get better marks, I guess. So the question role of audit committee, if asked, then mention this, that the part C, subpart A of the schedule to regulation number 18 tells us about the role of the audit committee in the SEBI LODR portion. First point is about the oversight of the listed entities financial reporting process, and to ensure that the financial statement is correct, sufficient, and credible. Disclosure of its financial information to ensure that the financial statement is correct, sufficient, and credible. So this is the first role of audit committee, to have an oversight of the listed entities financial reporting process and disclosures of its financial information to ensure that the same is complete, correct, and sufficient. All right. Second point is about the recommendation for the appointment, remuneration of the statutory auditor of the listed entity. The third point is about the approval of payment to statutory auditors for any other services rendered by the statutory auditor, for example, the tax audit. All right. The first point was about the financial reporting process. The second and third point are about the statutory auditors. Remember that. Fourth point is about the annual financial statements and auditors report. All right, auditors report and the annual financial statements. It basically says that the audit committee need to review the financial statements and the auditors report before issuing the same to the board of directors. All right. So it says what needs to be reviewed. This can be asked as a separate question as well. Remember that. So yes, reviewing with the management the annual financial statements and auditors report before submitting it to the board for approval. So what are the points which are to be reviewed by the audit committee along with the management? The first point being the director's responsibility statement. Second point being the changes in accounting policies and practices. Third point being the major accounting entries because of the judgment of the management. Fourth point being the significant adjustment because of the auditor that they identified. Fifth point being the compliance with the listing and other legal requirements. Sixth point being the disclosure in relation to the related party transactions. And seventh point being the modified opinion if given by the auditor in the audit report. All right. E point is also about the reviewing with the management the quarterly financial statement. First one was about the annual financial statement, and the second one is about the quarterly financial statement. And sixth point, basically, again, the review with the management, the statement of uses or application of funds which are raised through the issue. So basically, if the issue is done, if the issue of shares is done, then the amount is raised, some amount is raised, whether the same is applied for the purposes mentioned in the prospectus, and if not, then what? Then they will have to review the same. All right, the statement of uses and the application of funds basically. Seventh point about again the review and monitoring the auditor's independence and performance. This is a good point. Eighth point is about the approval or any subsequent modification of transactions of the listed entity with related parties. So eighth point is about the related party approval or any subsequent modification. All right. So if we again see the thing from first to eighth point, if we see the first point was about the financial reporting process oversight of the listed entities process of financial reporting. B point is about the recommendation for the statutory auditor. C point is about the approval of payment of statutory auditor. And D, E, F, and G were about the review. First one was the review of the annual financial statement. Second one was the quarterly financial statement. The third one was the review of the statement of uses and application of funds. And seventh one was about the auditor's independence and performance review. All right. Eighth point was about the related party transaction. Ninth point is about the scrutiny of the intercorporate loans and investments. And last point is about the valuation of undertakings of or assets of the listed entity, wherever it is necessary. All right. So about regulation number 18, we have already completed. First, we read about the regulation number 18 in a comparative chart with section number 177, where we read about the composition, the chairman, and the everything, the applicability part. So we read that. Then we read the powers of the audit committee as per regulation number 18. Then we read the role of the audit committee, where we read the 10 points just now. So now coming to section number 177, other points, it basically talks about the functions, the important functions about functions of the audit committee. So now you will see that the points will be similar to the roles of the audit committee and the powers of the audit committee that we have already read about. So yes, let's see the points, and you will be able to relate all the points, majority of the points basically. All right. So the audit committee performs various important functions like investigating the matter referred by the board, discuss about internal control system. All right. So investigating the matter we just read in the powers portion. All right. Investigation, well, first point was there. All right. Now the terms of reference as well as the functions of the audit committee specified in section number 177 are as under. Section number 177 subsection 4 talks about that every audit committee shall act in accordance with the terms of reference specified in writing by the board, which shall include the recommendation for the terms of appointment of the auditor of the company. We have already read this point in the role of the audit committee. The second point being the review and monitor the auditor's independence and performance. This point was also read by us, was also covered again above. And then the third point, examination of the financial statement and the auditor's report. Instead of examination, the word review was used. So here examination word is used. And the fourth point was about the approval or any subsequent modification of transaction of company with related parties. This was also there. All right, the approval part was also there. So these are the four functions given in section number 177 subsection 4. You can easily relate it with the above part in powers and function and powers and roles of the audit committee. So yes, All right. Here now, however, the audit committee may make omnibus approval for the. So this talks about the omnibus approval for the related party transactions. This is basically this basically talks about the if a particular related party is there and the transactions are with that party is repetitive within a certain period, certain amount. The audit committee may make an omnibus approval for the particular transactions within which are within the limits as given in the law. All right. So yes, this can also be there. The fifth point basically about the scrutiny of intercorporate loans and investments. Again, the role of audit committee was as per regulation number 18 covered that point. Valuation point also covered was also covered there. This is a new point, evaluation of internal financial controls and risk management systems. This is also there in role of management, a role of audit committee as per regulation number 18, but we didn't cover this point because we just covered 10 points out of the 30 points that are given in the study material. So just learn the first 10 points that I've already given in this PDF, and that would be enough for you to score marks. All right. So 7th point, you can learn the evaluation of the IFC and risk management systems. And the 8th point is about the monitoring the end use of funds raised through public offers. This one was also there in the statement of end use of public issue and all. So yes, this point is also covered above. The only point which was extra here is this point, that is talks about the evaluation of internal financial controls and risk management systems. All right. Section number 177 subsection 5 talks about the audit committee can call for the comments of the auditors about the internal control systems as well. The scope of audit, including the observation of the auditors and review of the financial statements before the submission to the board. So the audit committee can call for the comments as well. All right. Section number 177 subsection 6 talks about the authority to investigate into the any matter as given in subsection 4, as referred to by the board as well. So investigating power is given to the audit committee. Section 177 subsection 7 talks about that uh, the audit committee, the auditors and the key managerial personnel uh, shall have the right to be heard in the meeting of the audit committee if it comes to the if it comes to the auditor's report, but they won't have any right to vote. All right, they will have the right to be heard, but they won't have any right to vote. All right, section number 177, subsection 8 talks about the board's report under section number 134, subsection 3, to disclose the composition of the audit committee, where the board had not accepted any recommendation of the audit committee. Section number 177, subsection 8 basically tells us about two things. First thing being the disclosing the composition of the audit committee in the board's report, and second thing about if the board did not accept any recommendation of the audit committee, then that fact should also be disclosed in the board's report. So now let's head to the next topic, which talks about the review of information by the audit committee. Very and it is asked so many times previously as well. So it basically talks about the mandatory review points by the audit committee. There are 5 points given in this topic. It says about that audit committee shall have to review these 5 matters for sure without any fail. All right. So it says about that sorry 6 points are there that the audit committee shall have to review as per part number C, B of Schedule 2 to Regulation number 18. All right. So remember that. So there are 6 points. First point being management discussion and analysis of financial condition. You will have to cram these 6 points if asked in question. If asked in exam, then you will have to copy paste these 6 points as it is. All right. The first point is about the management discussion and analysis report of the financial condition and results of operation. The second point being the statement of significant related party transactions. They will have to review this as well. The third point being the management letters or the letter of internal control weakness issued by statutory auditor as per SA 265. All right. Then the fourth point is about again the internal control weakness, but issued by the internal auditor. All right, internal audit report relating to internal control weakness. So third and fourth point talks about the internal control weaknesses. Third point, in third point, it was issued by the statutory auditor. In the fourth point, it was issued by the internal auditor. The fifth point talks about the chief internal auditor appointment, removal, and terms of remuneration of the chief internal auditor. The fifth point. The sixth point is about the statement of deviations. This point is also we also discussed in the role of audit committee. All right, so you can see this. They will have to review the statement of deviations in case the quarterly statement of deviations, including report of monitoring agency, and if in case of annual statement of funds utilized for purposes other than those stated in the offer letter, offer document or prospectus. All right. So these are the 6 points that are required to be mandatorily reviewed that are required to be reviewed mandatorily by the audit committee. All right. So yes, now this what are the responsibility of the auditor in this case? Matlab, if the auditor wants to see whether the audit committee has reviewed these 6 points or not, then what is the responsibility for the same? The question can be framed in this way, that what are the responsibilities of the auditor in respect of mandatory review points. So you will have to you don't need to mention the 6 points, then you will have to refer these lines. All right. So it says that the auditor should ascertain from the minute book of the audit committee and other sources like agenda papers, etc., whether the audit committee has reviewed the above mentioned information. And then the auditor should ascertain whether, as a part of director's report or as an addition thereto, a management discussion and analysis report forms part to the shareholders. The first point, it talks about that the auditor should ascertain from the minute book that they have reviewed it or not. The minute book basically is the minutes of meeting. So it can easily see that if the agenda, if in the agenda papers or the minutes, there was an agenda to review the 6 points given above. If there was no agenda given in the minute book, then it then the auditor can infer that the same has not been reviewed. All right. So it basically tells us about it is basically telling us the process that the auditor should perform in order to verify whether the audit committee has reviewed or not. All right. So the first point talks about the review from the minute book. Check the minute book and agenda paper as well, and also ascertain whether, as part of director's report or as an addition thereto, a management discussion and analysis report is also there, whether they form part of the annual report to then the auditor should further ascertain whether the management discussion and analysis report includes discussion on the matters stipulated in Schedule 5B. All right. Next is here whether certain deficiencies or adverse findings are noted by the audit committee. The auditor will be required to see that these have been suitably dealt with by the management in the report on corporate governance. All right. So the next point is about the auditor should ascertain that the information reviewed by the audit committee is consistent with the reporting in the financial statements, including the segment reporting as well. So these are the 3 to 4 points that are to be given. So now let's head to the amended portion, which is your last topic for the day. It talks about the resignation of statutory auditors from the listed entities and their material subsidiaries. So this topic is also subdivided into 3 portions. The first portion talks about the timelines within which the auditor can resign, and if he does, then what are the obligations of the statutory auditor for the same. All right. And the second portion, which talks about the responsibilities of the audit committee in case the resignation happens. And the third thing talks about the obligations of the listed entity and the material subsidiaries, which first 2 portions are about the understanding part. So we will go one by one. The first portion, which talks about the time frame within which the auditor, if resigns, then what are the obligations of the auditor for the same. For example, in case the auditor resigns within 45 days from the end of the quarter number 1 or quarter number 2 or quarter number 3 respectively, then the auditor shall have to first issue the audit report for the quarter 1 or quarter 2 or quarter 3 respectively. All right. So this let me show you the screen as well for that matter. Yes, this is the first part. If the auditor resigns within 45 days from the end of quarter of a financial year, then the auditor shall, before such resignation, issue the limited review oblique audit report for such quarter. As I said, that if the auditor resigns from the if the auditor resigns within 45 days from the end of quarter number 1, quarter number 2, or quarter number 3, I am not mentioning quarter number 4. Keep that in mind. All right. So yes, if they resign within 45 days from the end of quarter number 1 to quarter number 3 respectively, then they will have to issue the audit report or the limited review for the 3 quarters respectively as well. And if the time limit we push after 45 days, then they will have to issue the statutory auditor will have to issue the limited review or the audit report for the next quarter as well, along with the first quarter. That was the requirement for the A part. So if we see here, if the auditor resigns after 45 days, then the auditor shall, before such resignation, issue the limited review for such quarter, means quarter number one, as well as the next quarter, then the quarter number two. For example, if for quarter number one, the auditor is resigning after 45 days, that is denoted by this triangle, then the auditor shall have to issue the LR report for quarter number one as well as quarter number two. And if this triangle denotes the case, that is, then they will have to issue the quarter number two as well as quarter number three. All right. I hope I made my case clear. The C portion is the important one. It basically says that if the auditor has already issued the LR report for quarter number one to quarter number three, then they cannot resign at by any chance. All right. They cannot resign and they will have to issue for the quarter number four and as well as for the whole financial year as well. All right, we can read it here. If the auditor has signed the LR for the first 3 quarters of a financial year, then the auditor shall, before such resignation, issue the LR for the last quarter of such financial year as well as the audit report for such financial year as well. You can see this diagram we have created and denoted square, triangle, and circle respectively for the A, B, and C case. Square with before 45 days, triangle after 45 days. Similar for quarter number two and quarter number three. And for the circle denotes for quarter number four only, because here we are assuming that for quarter number one to quarter number three, they have already signed. And if if they want to resign, then they cannot at any chance as per point number C. All right, I hope I made myself clear. Now coming to the second part, which talks about the responsibilities of the audit committee. It says that uh, if the resignation happens, then reporting of concerns with respect to the listed entity, its material subsidiary, to the audit committee. Well, the first point, A point, it talks about that if there are any concerns with the management, if the statutory auditor has any concern with the management or the top authority, and the concerns can be about the non-cooperation by the management or the non-availability of the information, then which hampers the audit process, then the statutory auditor can approach the chairperson of the audit committee, and the audit committee shall have to take an action immediately without waiting for without waiting for the timeline for their meeting as well. So it talks about this only, that the auditor shall approach to the chairman of the audit committee of the listed entity, and the audit committee shall receive such concern directly and immediately without specifically waiting for the quarterly audit committee meetings. All right, so they will not have to wait for the meeting, the quarterly meeting that are about to happen every quarter, but they will have to immediately meet and resolve the matter as soon as possible. And in the second point, it says that if the auditor proposes to resign, and the reason being the non-receipt of information or the non-cooperation by the management, then the details of the information and explanation that were sought by the audit committee but were not provided by the that were sought by the statutory auditor but not provided by the management, that shall have to be given to the audit committee for that matter. All right. So let's read it again. If the auditor proposes to resign, all concerns with respect to the proposed resignation along with the relevant documents shall be brought to the notice of the audit committee. And if the proposed resignation is due to the non-receipt of information or explanation from the company, then the auditor shall inform the audit committee of the details of the information explanation sought and not provided by the management. All right. And the C point basically says that on receipt of such information from the auditor relating to the proposal to resign as mentioned above, the audit committee shall deliberate on the matter and communicate its views to the management and the auditor. So the audit committee shall deliberate on that matter and communicate its views to the management and the audit committee. And if that happens for the good, then maybe the statutory auditor does not resign and continue the audit. All right. So yes, they will try to resolve the matter, and if they couldn't, then the timeline provision of A can happen. But even though the statutory auditor proposes to resign but couldn't because of any reason, then they can issue a disclaimer of opinion as per SA 705, which is here. Disclaimer in case of non-receipt of information in accordance with the standards on auditing, SA 705. All right. So if they couldn't resign, if they proposed to resign but couldn't resign, and the matter doesn't resolve and the information still is not provided by the management, then the statutory auditor will issue disclaimer of opinion. All right. And this point talks about the amendment in the terms of appointment letter, basically, that if after the issue of these points by the amendment and regulation number 30, basically, because of this amendment, the appointment letter shall have to be modified in case the auditor has already been appointed, and if not appointed, then the terms of the appointment shall contain the provisions for A and above, for A and B above as already seen. All right. And the practicing CS shall see that all the compliances have been followed by the company or not. All right. And the it says about that the obligations of the listed entity and the material subsidiaries. It says that the first point basically means the format of information to be obtained from the statutory auditor upon resignation. Second point being the corporation by listed entity and its material subsidiary. The third point being disclosure of audit committee's views to the stock exchange. So you simply remember it with the mnemonic that I've created about FCD. FCD facade. You can say that FCD is simply format, cooperation, and disclosure. All right. So that's the end of our today's topic, that is audit committee. For the remaining portion, stay tuned to our channel, and you can subscribe our channel, and we will put the videos, more videos on this soon. For the board of directors, as I've already said, you can click the I button and you will be able to see all the relevant provisions of the board of directors that is covered in your this chapter, regulation number 17, basically 17 and 17A. So it everything is covered in that video. You can have the link on the I description. Plus, for the other provisions, stay tuned. And I hope you like this video. And if you do, then subscribe this channel to stay tuned. All right. Thank you.